Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm playing Luthier, a worker placement game for 1 to 4 players currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. In Luthier, players take the role of a family of artisan crafters specializing in making musical instruments. You'll attract patrons who shower you in gifts of money and resources, as long as you make and repair the instruments that they request, as well as perform their desired style of music. Now, please be aware this is a sponsored video. The publisher Paverson Games paid me to make this video to show you how Luthier plays. Also keep in mind that everything I'm about to show you is a prototype and subject to change. In fact, I know several things are already being changed. For more information, check out their Kickstarter page. A link is in the description below. Now, I went ahead and I got almost everything set up for a solo game. You want to set things up as if you were playing a 2-player game. So I've turned the board over to the 1 to 2 player side. I've shuffled up the patrons, the instruments, the repair cards, and the performance cards. I dealt out all the cards, and you can see that there are spaces missing because we're playing a 1-player game. I'll be using the red pieces, and as part of setup, I was given 2 of these family portraits, and I selected 1 to keep. For this play, I'm going to go with John Broadwood. He was an English piano maker during the classical era and famously gifted one of his instruments to Beethoven. You can see here on the back it lays out all of our starting resources. In this case, we're getting 1 of each type of resource. The white cube represents animal goods. It's like bones and hide and ivory and hair. The brown cube represents wood, and the gold cube represents metals. And in the game, they are represented by these icons here, with this blank one being animal, the planks being wood, and the filled in one being metal. I believe they plan to tweak the colors of these cubes in order to help with clarity in the final production. We're also starting with 5 money, and this symbol means we get to start 1 up on this track. I'll explain how that track works in a little bit. Also as part of setup, I received 2 patrons, and I selected Vivaldi. And now I can decide which of these 3 spaces I want to place him on, and I'll get an extra resource when I do, either 4 money, a good of my choice, or an assistant, which is one of these. I'm going to put him right here so that I can get a resource of my choice, and I want to get a medal. And because I'm the Broadwoods, I have a little special ability here that basically means that I get to double this reward here at the very beginning. So I'll get an extra medal. Medals are the most expensive goods in the game, so that's going to be very valuable. Now, also as part of setup, I received 2 instruments, and I chose 1 to keep. So I have this natural trumpet, and I'm going to place it here on the left side of my board. This is the roughing bench. In order to complete this instrument, I first need to spend 2 medals in this case in order to move it to the finishing bench. Once it's over there, I'll need to spend 2 more metal in order to actually build and complete the instrument. There are 3 different types of instruments. This symbol here means a wind instrument, but we also have strings, as well as percussion and keyboard. And if you look at my patron card, there on the left side, it shows that he wants me to make him a wind instrument. He also has a secondary request below that, which is to either make another wind instrument, or to repair a wind instrument, or to complete a performance in his desired style, which in this case is Baroque. There are 3 different styles: Baroque, Classical, and Romantic. But you'll see how all of that works here in just a little bit. To finish up setup, I received 4 personal goal cards and selected 2 to keep. The solo opponent will be using the blue pieces. You just flip over the board to the other side, shuffle up their level 1 cards, give them a random level 1 patron, and randomly select an AI guild card. This is going to determine their preferences throughout the game, and also give us a little bit of setup. We want to move the cubes that represent these 3 icons on their priority tracker. Lastly, you want to search the instrument deck for an instrument that matches the patron's requirement. And then you can just assign it to them by tucking it underneath. Lastly, in the solo game, you want to take 1 of these orchestra cards, Get a third color that's not being used and fill up the orchestra area according to the card. We're going to be doing some area control and stuff in there, and so this is just going to tighten up that space and make it a little bit more interesting for a 2-player game. And there we go. I think that's enough of setup. Why don't we go ahead and dive right in and start playing, and I can teach the rules as we go, just like I always do. The first thing we do at the start of every round is get our start of round bonuses. Those are denoted by a fire icon. Now, we don't start with any of those at the beginning of the game, so we can ignore that. We then advance all of our patron cubes and receive gifts. So you can see underneath all of our patron slots are cubes. We only have one patron, so we're going to advance the cube and get whatever the gift shows right above it. In this case, another medal. We are absolutely loaded up with metal. That's pretty awesome. You can see the next time we advance the cube, we'll receive an apprentice. And then the next time we advance the cube, our patron would have run out of patience with us and will leave. That's bad, but if we can fulfill any one of their requests, then we can reset this cube. So that's a major goal for us. We need to either fulfill their main or secondary request. And once we fulfill both, we'll actually get to score these points and get a permanent special ability, which in the case of Vivaldi will be a discount to our repairs. And now if we had any instrument cards in our hand, we could play them here to our roughing bench. But again, we can skip that and we can move on directly to the planning phase. In this phase, we are going to be using our workers because this is a worker placement game. We start with 3 workers, our level 1, our level 3, and our level 5 worker. These kind of represent the skill of those workers. Obviously, the higher numbers are better and will let us do better actions or act first in these different locations. Now, there's 7 worker placement locations in total. We have the salon, the performance, the guild, the repair, the balcony up there, and then 2 spots on our board, the roughing bench and the finishing bench. And because we're first player, we get to select first. Now in a multiplayer game, you would be playing these face down so people don't know what number you're using. We don't have to worry about that in a solo game. Now I think I'd like to get another patron. And I think I'll just go there with my level 3 worker. Okay, now our AI opponent gets to place a worker out. And they're going to do it by flipping over the top card of this shuffled deck. So this is showing the repair location. And now they also start with 3 workers, but they're starting with their 3, 2, and their 1. So a little bit different than us. And in order for us to not know which one they're sending, we need to flip these over and then shuffle them up. And so we're going to put one there at random. We don't know what that's going to be. I think I'd like to do a performance, and I really want to do a good job. So I'm going to come in with my best worker. We then flip this. Ooh, they also want to come for a performance. I then think I'm just going to come here to my roughing bench and start working on the trumpet. And lastly, ooh, this symbol here means they're just going to go to their own bench and try to make their instrument. And there we go. We've placed all of our workers, so we're done with the planning phase. We now move on to the resolution phase. But before we do, we need to reorder the AI opponent's cards based on their priority tracker. Since performance is at level 2, that's going to go first. The repair will be next at 0, and this workbench action always happens last. Now, because we're first player, we get to choose one of the locations where we have one of our workers and activate it. So we could go to the salon, or to perform, or here to our roughing bench. Alternatively, we could choose to instead go to the market. You can go to the market once per round during the resolution phase. And we can actually see the order that the AI is going to go to these different locations. So we know that the first place they want to resolve is this performance. If we do it instead, then they'll move on to repair. I think I'm going to come up here and activate the salon. Now, at this location, and it's all spelled out right here, you can either get one of these patrons, or you can get an apprentice, as well as 2 inspiration tokens. And those are basically just wilds. You can spend them as money in the market. You can also spend them in the repair and the perform actions in different ways. I definitely want to get a patron. You can see there are 3 laid out. The one furthest to the right in the number 1 spot is free. The one in the middle costs 4 either coins or inspiration in any combination. And the one furthest to the left costs 8. You could also go through the deck and pick out a patron of your choice by spending 10. Again, money and inspiration in any combination. But you would have had to go there with an assistant, or rather an apprentice. And by doing that, you'd have to remove that apprentice from the game. Now, these apprentices add +1 to your worker's skill. So if I had come here, I would have had 4 skill rather than 3. And that can make a difference because depending on your skill, you can have extra special abilities at a location. It's shown right here that if you come here with 4 skill or more, you can move one of your patron cubes back 1 and then receive any of the patron's gifts that they offer. Unfortunately, I didn't have an apprentice, so I just came here with 3, so I don't get that. But I can take a patron, and I think I'm going to take Pompadour. Mostly because she's free, but also because she's going to give us gifts of money. And once again, I can place her here in order to get 4 money, or place her here in order to get an apprentice. I'm going to come here. So we now have 9 money. That'll be good. And there we go. That's it. That is that location resolved. Our solo opponent now gets to go, and the first unresolved card is for the performance. Now, because there's more than one worker at this location, we need to figure out turn order. Now, the game comes with this that you can use to place the workers and determine turn order. That's handy when you're playing a 3 or 4 player game. Because it's just the 2 of us, I'm just going to lay it on the board. And now, because I'm underneath, that means I went there first. I'm going to be in front, and then they get to go. I came with a skill of 5, and they came with a skill of 3, but we add their priority marker here, which is on the 2. So they also have 5. It's 5 skill versus 5 skill, but because I was first, I break the tie, and I get to resolve the action first, which can be a really big deal. Now, at this location, you can either do a performance, or you can get 3 animal cubes. Keep in mind, you have a limit of 9 resources that you can hold at any one time. I definitely want to do a performance, and just like with the patrons and really every one of these locations, the first card, the one furthest to the right, is free, but the other ones cost a combination of money and inspiration. And the performances have a type. So this is a Baroque performance, and this other one is a romantic. And luckily for me, Vivaldi wants a Baroque performance. So that's the one I want to do. Now we need to determine how well this performance goes. And for that, we're going to roll these 2 performance dice. These have 0, 1, and 2. Oh, and 3. So we're going to get anywhere from 0 to 6 on these. And then we're going to add the skill of the worker that we placed there. So in this case, 5. And we'll use that to determine how well we did. You can see here, we want to get at least 9 in order to get that middle performance. And that's going to be very important. So let's roll and see what we get. We want to see a 4 on these. Oh, that's a 3. That's so close. But luckily, look at this. Because we're Broadwood, we started with a little special ability here. We get 1 reroll. We really need to see a 2 or a 3. Yes! There we go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 5, 9, which puts us right in that second tier, just barely. We're going to get 2 money and a victory point. Now, victory points are tracked on this large board here, which I don't have room for on the table. So instead, I'll just use these poker chips. So there we go. That's 1 point for me. And then that symbol there means that we get to place a performance token into the orchestra. And because this was a Baroque performance, we can place it on any of these green Baroque spaces. Now, I'll explain in more detail here a little bit how this all works. We're basically doing some area control here. We want to get first chair. Now, if I were to place this into any of these spots that already have pieces, then I wouldn't get first chair. We don't want that, so I think I'm going to place right here on this violin. And because I'm the only one there, I get first chair, which means I'm going to get this special ability, which in this case is 1 money and 1 wood. And because we got to place a token here in the orchestra, that means that our patron was thoroughly impressed. And so we can add this card to them to show that we have fulfilled one of their secondary requirements. It's a bit confusing, but that bottom request is to either repair or build a wind instrument or to do a Baroque performance. The performance has nothing to do with the instrument, so we don't need to place this marker on this wind instrument row. He just wants a performance in the style that he prefers, which is Baroque. So we can just slide that under there to show that we've met his secondary request. And when we meet one of his requests, we can reset his patron cube. We've bought ourselves a little bit more time to fulfill all of his requests. Now, one thing I should have noted is that we could have spent inspiration in order to increase the quality of our performance. And you can spend as many inspiration tokens as you want. Now, lastly, because we came here with a worker that was 4 or greater skill, we get to move up 1 more on the track. Now, in the future, when we do a performance, we won't just get a reroll, but we will also get to use one of these black dice to replace the white die. And this is just a better die. It has numbers going from 1 to 4 rather than 0 to 3. Now the solo opponent gets to resolve this space. There's only 1 card for them to pick, so they're going to choose that one. But if they had had a choice, they would first look to their patrons to see what performance they wanted them to do. They would always start with their left patron and try to fulfill that, and then the right patron if they had one. Now, the one patron they have doesn't have secondary requests, so it doesn't even want them to do any sort of performance. So in this case, if they had still had a choice, they would look to their card, their guild card. And you can see here, they prefer romantic, then classical, and then Baroque. And then if they had still had a tie, then they would just choose whichever card was furthest to the right. Now, they're going to ignore the cost. They never pay costs or anything like that. They're just going to resolve the card, and they don't roll dice. All they do is they look here, and it shows that they're going to take whichever worker they put there, which is a 3, plus this priority. You can think of this priority track as being kind of like apprentices. So it's almost like they went here with 2 apprentices because their priority track is on the 2. So they really came in with a strength of 5, and then they're going to add 7 for a total of 12. They had a 12 skilled performance. And you can see here for this particular performance, that's going to also place them in the middle category. So that's good for them. Now they're going to ignore the 2 money that they would get, but they will get the 2 points. And then they'll get to place a performance token into the orchestra as well. They're going to place it here in the romantic section, and they're going to want to place in an empty space if they can. Now they have 3 spaces to choose from that are empty. To break that tie, they're going to go to their card, and you can see they prefer percussion and keyboard, which is this row right here. So this is their preferred spot. Again, they don't care about any of the rewards or anything like that. They're just going to place their token there, and that's it. They're all done. So we take their worker and we place it on the card that they resolved. Now, if this card fulfilled one of their patrons' requests, they would tuck it just like we do, but because it doesn't, we can just discard this. We basically have 2 choices. We can either go to the market or we can resolve our roughing bench. I think I'll resolve the roughing bench. This is going to let us work on one of our instruments that are here. So we can work on the trumpet. We need 2 metal. And that's going to let us move this from the roughing bench over to the finishing bench. Now later we can put a worker here in order to finish that instrument. And that's going to cost also 2 metal in this case. And you can also see here that if we had come here with a strength 3 worker, we would get 2 inspiration tokens. And if we came here with a skilled 5 or more worker, then we'd also get a discount of 1 on the resources that we had to spend, in addition to the inspiration. I didn't do that. I went here with my least skilled worker. The solo opponent now wants to resolve the repair action. They came here with their 1. And you can see on the card here, they're going to take one of these repair cards, but it can't be a 3 or 4 victory point card. It has to be a 2 victory point card. Now, both of these are 2-point cards. So once again, we're going to go through the same process that we did over here. They're going to look to their patrons to see what they wanted repaired. Their patron doesn't care about that. They just want this instrument built. So they're going to look over to their priority. Again, they favor percussion and keyboard. So they're going to take that one right there. They don't have to pay any of the resources or anything like that. They're just going to get the 2 points. And they now get to place a repair token into the orchestra. Now here we go. You can see here, this is that top row up there. And they'd like to place it in an empty spot, but all of them are filled. So then they would choose to place it in a location that let them gain first chair by having the most tokens there. Now that only counts these perform and repair tokens and not these instrument tokens. Those instrument tokens are like a permanent first chair. You just win that region immediately. And so they're going to ignore that spot. Here they already have first chair because of the only one there. So they're going to come here. Now that doesn't let them gain first chair yet. They need to place another either repair or performance token there in order to gain that first chair. And the reason we want first chairs is because that's going to be worth victory points at the end of the game. And once again, if this had fulfilled one of the requirements of their patrons, they would slip the card under like us, but it doesn't, so we just discard it. And there we go, back to us, and we have resolved all 3 of our workers, but we still have a chance to come here to the market. So that's what we're going to do. To indicate we visited, we take our little horse and carriage and move it over to the other side. Again, you can only do this once per round. And now we can use our money to buy goods here, buy apprentices. You can see each apprentice costs 4 money. We can even spend 15 in order to move up one of these tracks. But what I want to do is buy and sell some goods. Now each round will have sort of a little bit of a fluctuating market. You can see here it shows the ranges of each of the different goods. So animal products will be anywhere from 1 to 3. Wood 2 to 4, and metal 4 to 6. At the beginning, you always start with this card, so each good is right in the middle. And that's the price to both buy and sell. I think what I want to do is I want to sell one of these metals. No, actually, I want to sell both. Let's just go ahead and sell both of these. We can sell them for $5 each. That's $10. I'm going to use 4 of my money to get an apprentice. I then want to get 2 wood and 2 animal products. That's going to cost 10. There we go. I have 8 more left. I could get another apprentice. Sure, why not? You can only have a max of 3 apprentices at any one time. Also keep in mind that you can use inspiration here in order to reduce the cost. Okay, there we go. I think I'm done at the market. And now last but not least, the solo opponent is going to come here to their workbench. Here they get to just automatically make an instrument. Now if they didn't have an instrument to make, they would instead just draw the top instrument card off of the deck and tuck it under one of their patrons. But they have this bassoon. They're going to get these 6 points here. They are killing us right now. And they get to place one of their instrument markers on the spot in the orchestra that represents that instrument. which is right here, the bassoon. Now, a quick note, as I said, all of this is a prototype. And I know one of the things that they are changing is to make the orchestra a little bit larger so you can have these pieces here and not sort of cover up the names and the special abilities on each chair. So that is a little graphical improvement that will be made in the final edition. So there you go. By placing that instrument token there, they have secured first chair here. And look at here, because this is a wind instrument, and that is the instrument that their patron wanted made, they can tuck this underneath. And because that was the only request that they had, they've completed this patron. That means they're going to get the points shown right there, those 3 points. And then these can just get discarded sort of next to the AI's board. When we complete patrons, we get to tuck them underneath this area up here, and we get a permanent special ability. So in her case, our performances would be a +2 from now on, but the solo opponent doesn't get that. And there we go, that's it. We've taken all actions with our workers, they've taken all actions with their workers, so that's the end of the resolution phase. We now need to do some end of round cleanup, and we need to start here on our solo opponent's board. We're going to look here at the bottom of these cards that they played. And you can see here it shows that we need to move this priority track back 2 spaces. For this one, we would move the repair icon back 2, but it's already as far back as it can go. And we're now going to increase the icons. So the guild moves forward 1, patron action moves forward 1, and the guild moves forward 1 more. We're now going to look at the bottom right of these cards. If we've used a worker that's level 2 or greater, then we're going to upgrade this card from a level 1 to a level 2. So that would be this card and this one. So we're going to go into our pile here, find the level 2s, and replace them permanently. You can see the level 2s are a little bit more powerful. So for example, here, their performance will be a little stronger. And that means that they're going to get to go through the performance deck and pick out a card that will match one of their patrons if there isn't one out on the board. And you can see if they use a 3 or higher worker here, then it will upgrade from a level 2 to a level 3 and get even better. So then we'll just take these and shuffle them back in with the other cards that we didn't use. We would now update the turn order track, but no one went to the balcony, so we don't have to do that. Turn order will stay the same. We can reset our market cart token. We'll reveal the next market card. So animal and wood goods have gone down, and metal has stayed the same. We're now going to take any card that is still in the 1 location and discard it. And we really just have this one right here. We then slide the remaining cards over. And we refill. Oh, this one also needs to be discarded. We then advance the round marker. You can see up there, when we advance from round 2 to round 3, we're actually going to get another worker, our level 2 worker, while our solo opponent will actually get their level 4. And then between rounds 4 and 5, we'll get our level 4, and they'll get their level 5. So for the final 2 rounds of the game, we'll have 5 workers, so we'll be able to do a lot more stuff. Also, at the end of round 3, we will wipe all of the remaining patrons and discard any remaining level 1 patrons and put out level 2s. Also just point out that some of these cards have placeholder art in them. Again, this is a prototype. And there we go. We can start round 2 by getting our start of round bonuses. Again, we don't have any yet. We then advance our patron cubes. We're getting a medal. As well as $6. If we had any instrument cards in our hand, we could place it here on our roughing bench. And there we go. We're just going to repeat that process for 6 rounds. I really want another instrument. So I think I'm going to come here with my 3 worker plus one of my apprentices. Okay, they're going to go to a performance. I don't think I want to do a performance because that isn't the kind of performance that Pompadour will like. Instead, I really want to do one of these repairs. Just going to go there with my 1. Ooh, okay. They're also going to go get an instrument. That's unfortunate. And now, I want to finish my instrument. Okay, and they're going to go to the salon. Planning phase done. Resolution phase. So this is going to be first. And this is going to be second. These are both 2s, and so the order is broken by top to bottom. So yeah, let's resolve the guild. Okay, perfect. I have a 4 strength. They have a 2 plus a 2. So they're also at 4, but I went first, so I break the tie. I'm going to spend 4 to get the violin. So instead of getting an instrument, I could just get a medal. So as you can see, each of these locations has an alternative action that you can take, which is just to get resources. That's there because the order that these are resolved can matter, and something could get resolved before you wanted to take it, and so you might not just be able to take the action. You might not have the money that you need or whatever. So then, as a consolation prize, you can just get resources instead. Now, I went there with a 4 skill, and if you have at least 4 skill, you get a special reward of a resource of your choice. I'm going to go for metal. And you can see I have 9 goods now, so I'm completely filled. And in addition, so that's going to let you just take one of your instruments and put it onto your roughing bench. So I'm just going to place it right there. The apprentice I used goes back into the supply. And now they're going to take an instrument. They don't have a patron, so they're not going to go on that. Instead, they're going to look at their priority list, which shows percussion and keyboard. So they're going to take that one. And they can just tuck it right here. Now, one thing to note is you can look on the card here and it shows a max of 2 instruments. So if they were to play this card and they already had 2 instruments, then instead they would discard the card and they would place the worker here on their workbench so that they could actually make the instrument. Similar thing happens here if they were to take this action, they already had 2 patrons. Okay, well that was my resolution. Now they're going to go with their resolution. They're coming up here. So now their first choice of a patron would be someone whose primary requirement was one of their unassigned instruments. Unfortunately for them, none of these patrons actually want a percussion or keyboard. So once again, we're going to look at their card. You can see they favor romantic era patrons. And so they're going to take Ludwig. Ludwig II, and they're going to put him over here onto the leftmost spot. Now, this instrument is still unassigned, so that doesn't get assigned to him because his primary requirement is for a wind instrument. Back to us. I want to repair. I'll go ahead and I'll take the free one. You can see here, in order to repair this instrument, I need to spend a wood and a metal. That's going to be 3 points. So finally getting some points. And I can place my repair token in this wind row, wherever I want. Again, I probably want to place it somewhere on one of the empty ones. I think I'll go ahead and just take the 5 money. And repairing a wind instrument is one of the secondary requirements for Pompadour, so we can tuck it underneath her. And by doing that, we can reset her patron cube. Now, alternatively, we could have gotten 2 wood there. And if we had had 4 or more skill, we could move up this track. This first space would let us work on 2 instruments with just 1 worker here in the roughing station. And you can see here, we can also spend 2 inspiration to have a discount of 1 resource when we're repairing. But there we go, we're done there. They now just have a performance to make. And Ludwig here wants a romantic performance. So they're going to do this one. They have a 3. They're not adding anything to it. But because it's a level 2, they're getting a +9. So that's a 12 performance. That's the max level of performance. So they're getting a point. And they get to place one of these performance tokens here in the orchestra. There's 2 spaces that are open, because this violin space can be either romantic or classical. And these are even the same instrument here. So the solo opponent can't decide between either of those. So in a case like this, we can see here, we can sort of look at the back of our solo player aid. We have 2 options. So we're going to roll this die. Okay, we got a 2, which means it's going to choose the right option. And it's going to get to tuck this right there. We're now going to finish our trumpet. And because we went here with a 4 or greater skill worker, we're actually going to get a 1 resource discount. So this will only cost us 1 medal. We complete the instrument, which will give us 5 points. And we get to place our instrument token on the natural trumpet. Now the problem here is that there is already an instrument token there. We still get to place our instrument token on the spot, but we don't get first chair. And so that's why I'm going to put them to the left. That shows that we are there, but we're not first chair. And so instead of getting the medal reward that you would get for being first chair, instead we're going to look down here. We can either take 2 money or an inspiration token. I'll take the money for now. And completing this instrument is the primary requirement for Vivaldi. So we're going to get the 5 points. And that icon means we get to move up the reputation track. In that first spot there, we get an apprentice. We now have a special ability, which is a 1 resource discount anytime we do a repair. And we're going to have that for the rest of the game. Now, if we had managed to come here with 6 or more skill, then we could have doubled the reward, the bonus that we got from the orchestra. And there you go. You've now seen all of the actions except for going to the balcony. By going to the balcony, you can either get 2 apprentices, 6 money, or you can place one of your markers on one of these public award tiles. So for example, the one to the right says that if you have 1, 2, or 3 instrument tokens in the romantic section here of the orchestra, then you can get some points. Now, at the start of the game, we blocked off that 3 spot. So the only ones available to us are the 2 and the 1. And look at us, we have 1 in that location. So at a future round, we could place one of our workers up here and take one of these 3 markers, whichever one we choose, put it there, and we would get a point. Or maybe we could wait until we got a second one in there and then go for that second in order to get those 4 points. Now, the other thing that does is that unlocks some of these rewards on your board. So that one I just put out there would let us store 3 more goods, as well as give us a good of our choice at the beginning of each round. This one right here unlocks the purple performance die. You basically get to roll that along with your performance and get a bunch of different resources. Or alternatively, you could use this one in order to get one of these royal patrons. As part of setup, we selected 3 of these at random. So you could pick one and add it to your patrons. Additionally, here at the balcony, that's how you change turn order. So essentially, whatever order the tokens came out in, that would be the new turn order. And you can see if you go there with a 4 or greater skill, then you can move up the reputation track. And as you go up here, you can see you could draw 3 instrument cards and pick one. Now that spot in the middle, along with this spot on this track and this spot on that track, those let you gain specialty workers. You're going to come up here to the corresponding deck, which again, at the beginning of the game as part of setup, we selected 3 of each type randomly, and you'll pick one, and they have a special ability. So for instance, this mentor, after completing any action, you'll gain an apprentice. So what you would do is you would take whichever worker that you used, you'd place it on there and replace it with this token to show that they are now a specialty worker with that special ability. And so you can get up to 3 of those by going up these tracks. Now, there are a few more rules I want to mention. If one of these tracks were to ever get above 3, then you would activate a special ability and reset it back to 0. For example, for this guild track, you would simply take the top instrument card off the deck and assign it. Similarly, for repair, you would just take the top repair card and just complete it as usual. Here you would take the top performance and complete it as if they had scored an 11 performance. Here you'd take the top patron card, and here you would claim the next public goal based on the solo opponent's guild card. Also, if one of these cards were to ever go from 3 to 4, for example here, if you ever put a level 4 worker or more on a level 3 card, it stays at level 3 and instead you gain one of these, which is known as the AI goal track. At the end of the game, we'll do final scoring. We'll score points for the number of first chairs that we have in the orchestra based on this chart. We then score points for every level 2 patron that we've completed. We score points for our personal goals. Each specialty worker is worth a point as well. We also get half points for any instruments that we have on our finishing bench. And we'll sum up all of our unused inspiration tokens, money, materials, and apprentices, and we'll get 1 victory point for every 10. We'll want to hold on to any remainders because that will be used as a tiebreaker. The solo opponent will also score for first chairs in the orchestra, the same way we do. They'll score their AI goal track, and they'll get half points for assigned instruments that haven't been completed. And that's it. If you have more points at the end, you win. And if not, the game comes with the world's tiniest violin. And there you go. That is my run-through of Luthier. Please go check out their Kickstarter for more information. There is a link in the description below. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.